How cool would it be to play in the Super Bowl? 3 Vols are going to do so. Or did I leave somebody off? Is it 3 or 4?
It's 3. You're right. It's 3.
All right,
It's
3.
really just 2. It's just 3 on rosters, basically.
Okay. 3 in the Super Bowl, or at least could walk home with a ring because they even give like the receptionist a ring. So let's start with Trey Smith. That's maybe your generational talent. And that's why I hesitate from saying Darnell Wright. I think you can have a couple, 3, 4 great offensive linemen in a decade. So I hesitate to call him generational. But how good is Trey Smith? Now, he had a little stumble towards the end of the game where he got called for a couple penalties, and that didn't go so well. But as a whole, they've got to be very, very happy with Trey Smith as a player. And they got a super deal on him. I think his contract's up after this year, but they got the great deal because of the blood clots. And he's probably, if you broke it down by dollar, the most efficient, best player in the NFL because he ain't making a lot of cash right now, buddy.
I agree. Trey Smith is, I mean, I talked about Andre Carrick stealing NIL money. The Chiefs are stealing money, basically stealing from him right now. Trey Smith deserves way more than he's getting. This guy, the fact that he fell to a 6th round because of the blood clots is crazy. His story is incredible. I mean, for those who don't remember, he had the blood clots and he couldn't play. Then he came back and he played. And not only that, but Jeremy Pruitt had to force him over to left tackle, which, as you know, Dave, is not his natural position. Left guard is. And forced him into left tackle because he didn't have any left tackles. Moved him back to guard after the blood clots. And then in 2020, Trey Smith decides, I'm going to come back for my senior year solely because I need to fulfill a promise I made to my dying mom that I would graduate and get a degree when he could have been a higher NFL draft pick. Labors through that horrible 2020 season for Tennessee. By the way, a guy with blood clots in his lungs playing during COVID. I mean, just imagine that. Imagine what he's going through during that time period. And falls to the 6th round of the draft and could legitimately lead the Chiefs to help lead the Chiefs to a 2nd straight Super Bowl. I mean, Trey Smith is one of the most beloved people to ever play at Tennessee. And it's funny, Dave, there are 2 types of beloved Tennesseans. There's the ones that helped elevate Tennessee as a football program. And I mean, you're talking Al Wilson, Peyton Manning, those guys. And then there are players that you feel bad for because they labored at a very bad time period, but they kept their head up and, held down the fort and went about their business, doing what they needed to do. And that's Trey Smith. And you have to give Trey Smith credit for that.
And don't forget this, Trey Smith also set a standard of play that continues with Tennessee. And I'll tell you who told me that. Brought to you by our friends at Apex Apparel Group. Design, brand, market your way. Any type of giveaways, any type of promotional products, mugs, hats, shirts, polos. It's that simple. Just go to your Apex Apparel Group, fill it out. They'll give you a free consultation. Call Tyler at 865-919-3001, 865-919-3001. Other than team success, it's hard to really point to Trey Smith and say that he would have had a better career with a better coach. But the other guy, the other former Vol that's going to be in the Super Bowl is Jauan Jennings, who was very good in college. I don't want to sell him short. But how good would he have been had he been under Josh Heupel? I mean, we're talking about another level of good, correct?
That is, I mean, you talk about guys who dictate coverage, Dave, and Jauan Jennings fell again in the draft because he didn't win on the 40 time. He wasn't that good. His 40 time wasn't that good. But, I mean, this guy is a uniquely skilled big receiver. And you know what I love about Jauan Jennings? Because we talk about this with Rue McCoy. You ever watch him with San Francisco? He's not the best. He's nowhere he's only got, I believe, 19 catches for 265 yards and a touchdown this year. But I'll go out on a limb and say he's the best blocking receiver in the NFL right now. And that guy is a loyal blocker, and you have to love him for that. I mean, you gotta. I'm sorry, I gotta say, I love those receivers that are willing to do that. That are willing to do that type of work for their team. It's the one thing this, Dave. It's probably the one biggest reason Randy Moss didn't get a ring, because he didn't try to block at all on running plays, and he kind of gave up the play. A guy very well, Kelly Washington. Kelly Washington gave away a run play or when the ball wasn't going to him with his lineup and formation when he was out on the field for Tennessee. He would actually give it away.
Well, and I think he's better as just a receiver too than maybe you think. Let's not forget they got a guy named Brock Purdy who has overcome a lot, but is he the best ball distributor out there? Absolutely not. I mean, if Jauan Jennings is with a better quarterback, I think he's a top end receiver. I'm not going to say one of the top 10 to 15, but I think he's pushing that mark in the NFL. And what I love about the Jauan Jennings story, if I had to sit down and write a story, is how didn't we think he was a big jackwagon when he did all the social media stuff? And as it proved out,
thought that. Most of all nation totally sided with Jennings.
Well, in the weeks after, in the immediacy, the day of is what I'm talking about.
No, the day of, everybody sided with Jennings.
Okay, the day of, I'll still say I wouldn't have done it, and I would be disappointed with my son if he did it, even though he was right. Okay, so I will still say day of, day now. I thought it was disappointing to go on social media and air your grievances. I just don't believe in that as a family, and if you're part of a family, you don't do that. I don't go and tell my friends when my wife and I are having marital issues. Okay, so I just don't believe you do that as a family. You and I can agree to disagree. But as
if your wife is publicly abusing you,
hold on.
Okay.
As it turned out, he was right. And I ask you this. If you could take what you know out of Jauan Jennings or Brew McCoy, who right now is overcoming a devastating injury, and I think it's going to be just fine, but you could take them as college players for this upcoming season. Jennings would be more of a known guy now because we don't think of him with the social media craziness. We think of him as a hard worker. Who would you take?
Oh, I would take Jennings.
I would take
Jennings.
I would
and
too.
By the way,
I feel stupid saying it.
Jauan Jennings was 1,000-yard receiver playing for Jeremy Pruitt in 2019. I believe he was 1,000 yards. I'm looking it up now. If he wasn't, he was very, very 969. Jauan Jennings was basically 1,000-yard receiver with Jared Garantano throwing him the ball and Jeremy Pruitt and on a team led by Jeremy Pruitt, who I don't even want to attack Jeremy Pruitt. You know this, Dave. Jeremy Pruitt wanted to play ball control. He wanted to limit the number of possessions a team ran. And so wasn't as many chances to get a lot of stats. I would take Jauan Jennings. I mean, I would do anything to have him on my team. I love the guy. And also Jauan Jennings is responsible for the greatest play of the 21st century for Tennessee football, which is the last time Tennessee beat Georgia when he caught the Hail Mary from Josh Dobbs, went up and grabbed it. I would take Jauan Jennings. I love Jauan Jennings. And again, those of us tied into the program in 2017, we all knew Butch Jones was a liar by that point. And we all knew Brady Hoke was a liar.
Don't you get up on your high horse and preach down at me. I knew Butch Jones was a liar 6 months into his tenure. I just don't believe that you speak outside the family. But that being said, even for those that still believe that, like me, Jauan Jennings has completely righted whatever wrong I saw in him. And you didn't see any wrong, and that's cool. But anyway, I hope nothing but the best for Jauan Jennings. And going back to Trey Smith for a second, talking to Cooper Mays, Trey Smith is a big part of why Tennessee's offensive line has great culture and has overcome some difficult things. He kind of put his arm, well, to some extent, Cade Mays kind of put his arm around Trey Smith or vice versa. They were kind of the ones that bonded. And according to Cooper, it was Trey Smith who put his arm around Cooper Mays and brought him along. Let's not forget that Cooper was considered undersized and couldn't play. And now he's one of the MVP offensive linemen in the nation. He's definitely one of the most valuable offensive linemen in the nation. I don't think there's any question about that. So, Caleb, both those guys, you've absolutely got to love. If you want to nitpick about social media like me, you can. But for the most part, those guys are maximizing their ability in the NFL. And I will still say this right now. I mean, I'm a Cowboys fan. I like CeeDee Lamb. But I know who's throwing the football to Jauan Jennings. And his name's Brock Purdy. And he makes actually less than Trey Smith, who they got on a discount. I just looked it up. He makes like $900,000. Would I trade CeeDee Lamb for Jauan Jennings? Yeah, probably if you threw in like a third or fourth round pick. I probably would. Portions of the program brought to you by Andy Mason, AndyMasonRealEstate.com. 4 decades combined experience in East Tennessee. Best prices, best service in the Knoxville area. AndyMasonRealEstate.com. But I'm happy for those guys. What is one guy, one player that you would have liked to see win a Super Bowl that didn't as a VFL? And give me some answers on the message board, because I've been struggling a little bit with today's poll question. So that just
mine is obvious.
Okay, well, lay it on me, brother.
It's going to be the fourth former Vol who goes into the Hall of Fame, Jason Witten. I really wanted to see Jason Witten get a Super Bowl.
Now you got to go Cowboys on me. I have such a love-hate relationship with Caleb. Why would you bring him up?
Because Jason Witten, as toxic as your favorite team's culture is with Jerry Jones, Jason Witten was probably the one true leader on that team. Was he not? That was a calming force that... Have you ever heard a negative word about Jason Witten among anybody that was around him?
No, he won the... Oh, my gosh. Help me, guys, on the message board. The legendary... Can you help me? The legendary defensive lineman for Dallas? Bob Lilly. Sorry. He won the Bob Lilly Award, which goes to best Cowboy on and off the field 7 times. Bob Lilly only won it 4. I mean, they talked about renaming the award. Seriously, they really did. They sent me to cover it when he won his 7th. I was at the stadium. Ironically, you want to hear something weird? Calvin Hill, the former running back for the Dallas Cowboys, sat down next to me, told his buddy, just heard, yeah, it's pretty serious. ACL, Grant's out again. I could have broke that. His son was Grant Hill. Wow. Is that not weird?
That's wild. By the way, I want to give Derek Owen Jr. a shout out. I forgot. Yeah, Eric Berry's another one. I hate that the Chiefs won the Super Bowl the year after he retired. It's one of those just really bad luck things. You know what I'm talking about? But Jason Witten, Eric Berry, and Dave, is it weird that I don't feel as bad for Al Wilson, because I'm like, you got your national championship ring in college? So
no, I think that's a factor. I think if you don't win a championship at either level, you gotta factor that in, and that's hurtful, because these guys want to win championships more than anything else. So we got Jason Witten, Eric Berry. Who else?
There was, again, if you guys want to throw Super Bowl, there is Al Wilson still, but again, he got it in college at least.
Okay, give me one more message board or Caleb, and then that'll be our poll question for today. Sometimes we got to work through these things.
For me personally, and it's because he was a partial. Oh my gosh! Stop. It's for me personally, and it's because he was a partial qualifier, so he couldn't get a ring for the '98 team. It's John Henderson. And
he didn't win one in the NFL. Certainly not.
Yeah,
for
he
the
didn't win one in the NFL.
He didn't go anywhere. He didn't go anywhere and like pick up a trash one, did he?
No, he didn't. It was
okay.
the Jaguars and then the Raiders.
All right, so that's our poll question. It's on the YouTube page, so if you can vote on that, please do that. What former Vol would you most like to have won a Super Bowl? I got a feeling that Eric Berry is going to take over. I don't know. Maybe it's the whole Achilles,
the cancer thing,
and cancer. That's pretty tough to over.
Well, it's funny because like 3 of the ones we're naming, Eric Berry, Al Wilson, and John Henderson, not Eric Berry necessarily, but Henderson and Al Wilson had their careers cut short due to injury too. Dave, I got to ask you probably remember when Al Wilson had the neck injury in 2006?
Yes.
If Al Wilson doesn't have that, he's probably going to the Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah. And it really, I haven't gone off on a tangent on this, but it really makes me mad that it's taking him this long to get in the College Football Hall of Fame, which was just last year, year before. And why is Deion Grant not in there? The best safety, in my opinion, in the 90s. Name a better safety in the 90s. Any team.
That's a good question. You're right. I can't think of one. He needs to be in the Hall of Fame. You're absolutely right. Deion Grant.
There's no question he's the next one.
It's funny. And you brought up how many people, unfortunately, there are some people from the 99 team who knew they were going to the NFL and kind of dialed it in a little bit, phoned it in. Deion Grant was not one of those guys, was he?
Oh, no.